Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So some recipients of Social Security will be receiving two payments in the month of June. We'll be going over who those people are and why they're going to be receiving double payments next month. Meanwhile, we have the whole debt ceiling deadline just around 11 days away, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. So we'll be going over some more updates on that as well. Now, before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so of course, we do have that whole debt ceiling deadline right around 11 days away. That's going to be June 1st, at least according to our Treasury Secretary and Janet Yellen. Of course, we do have some other estimates, but June 1st is really going to be the deadline that we're going to be focusing on. And really, at this point, they are running out of time because they have to come to an agreement, which in itself is going to be very difficult to come to any sort of agreement between Republicans and Democrats about what spending cuts we can have in order to raise the debt ceiling. Are they ever going to come to an agreement? Are they ever going to make compromise? Nobody really knows, but we just have to hope for the best. And then once they come to an agreement, they have to write the bill, they have to pass it through the House, they have to pass it through the Senate, and then get it to Joe Biden's desk to sign into law. And remember, for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to become the House Speaker, Republicans made certain demands from him. And one of those demands was to give them at least 3 days to read over any bill before they vote on it. So once they write the bill, they'll have to have at least 3 days to give every lawmaker a chance to read the entire bill. Gone are the days of passing these 1,000-page bills in the middle of the night without giving them time to read. Now they're going to have at least 3 days between writing the bill and actually voting on it. So of course that brings in some complications as far as the timeliness of being able to pass this bill as well. And well, this weekend they really did meet up a whole lot. On Saturday they did not meet up at all. Joe Biden finally came back to Washington on Sunday, and the staffers met up for about 2.5 hours yesterday. But today they are once again going to be meeting today. We're going to have McCarthy and Biden once again finally meeting at some point today on Monday. So we'll see whether or not they can sort of get a little bit closer. They really have to get the ball moving here, though, because again, 11 days away. They definitely have to come to some sort of an agreement by the end of this week to have any chance of passing the bill and raising the debt ceiling by that June 1st deadline. So according to MSNBC, McCarthy says he'll meet with Biden Monday after a productive debt ceiling call. So after he spoke to President Joe Biden by phone Sunday, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said they have agreed to meet in person Monday afternoon to work toward a deal on lifting the debt ceiling. McCarthy and Biden discussed the debt ceiling in a call Sunday while the president was flying back on Air Force One from the G7 summit in Japan after negotiations last week between senior White House aides and House Republicans failed to break an impasse. Quote, "My discussion with the president, I think, was productive," McCarthy told NBC News after the call, adding that the president had requested to meet in person Monday and he accepted the offer. Quote, "I think we can solve some of these problems," McCarthy said, "but I've been very clear to him from the very beginning we have to spend less money than we spent last year." McCarthy said both sides are still far apart, but he and the president had decided during their call to get their negotiators back together. The call between Biden and McCarthy came shortly after Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said on NBC News Meet the Press that early June is a hard deadline for the federal government to raise the debt ceiling, and warned that bills will go unpaid if Congress fails to reach a deal before the U.S. runs out of money. And of course, we're going to have bills going unpaid, at least according to the Treasury Secretary. And experts also warn that payments for Social Security beneficiaries could also be delayed. We don't really know how long they'll be delayed, whether it's a day or two, whether it's a week. Either way, even a day late for Social Security payments, quite frankly, is pretty unacceptable. Now, this is going to be the date in which we must raise the debt ceiling, June 1st, according to the Treasury Secretary. Of course, we do have some other dates given by other experts. We're going to be going over those in just a minute or so. Yellen said, quote, "I indicated in my last letter to Congress that we expect to be unable to pay all our bills in early June and possibly as soon as June 1st. and I will continue to update Congress, but I certainly haven't changed my assessment. So I think that's a hard deadline. Now, according to some other experts, according to Goldman Sachs on Business Insider, Goldman Sachs says the U.S. has an extra 8 days before it runs out of money to pay its bills that could buy it more time to negotiate the debt ceiling. So Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has previously said the X date, or the date when the U.S. can no longer pay its bills and risk a default, is June 1st, but the actual deadline could be a week later than June 1st, Alec Phillips, Goldman Sachs chief political economist, told Bloomberg TV on Friday. Quote, "Our guess right now is that the real deadline is probably more like June 8th, 9th. That's when they're sort of at the greatest risk." So according to Goldman Sachs, this deadline in which they must raise the debt ceiling is really probably more like June 8th. However, I think we really need to focus on the June 1st date because that's really the worst case scenario. And if we get to June 1st and we're unable to pay our bills, then obviously that's going to be very troubling. So we need to focus on the 1st instead of the 8th here. So of course, yesterday we also had Speaker McCarthy send out a tweet saying, "Just got off the phone with the president while he's out of the country. My position has not changed. Washington cannot continue to spend money we do not have at the expense of children and grandchildren. Tomorrow, he and I will meet in person to continue negotiations." So that's his side of things. And then of course, Biden had a different stance. So according to CNBC, Biden says that the GOP must move off of extreme positions and that there will be no debt limit deal solely on its partisan terms. So it seems like both sides are still pretty far away. But again, we're going to have President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy meeting up today. We'll see whether or not they can bridge the gap and get any closer to reaching a deal. Let's hope that they do. But if they don't, of course, apparently Biden is still considering perhaps using the 14th Amendment to unilaterally, by himself and himself alone, to raise the debt ceiling without any sort of help. So according to the New York Times, Biden said, "I think we have the authority." He also added that after the current crisis is resolved, he hopes to find a rationale and take it to the courts to decide whether the debt limit violates a clause in the 14th Amendment stipulating that the United States must pay its debts. He also said that while meeting with world leaders, he had not been able to assure them that America would not default on its debts, an event that economists say could set off a financial crisis that would sweep the globe. And of course, we have some politicians from both sides of the aisle saying that yes, perhaps if they were in this position as President Joe Biden is in right now, they would probably be using the 14th Amendment right now also. So we have former President Bill Clinton saying that he would raise the debt ceiling using the 14th Amendment, according to NPR. And then according to the Kansas City Star, we actually have a Republican senator in Josh Hawley, saying that if he were president, he would be tempted to raise the debt ceiling without Congress as well. So we're having people from both sides of the aisle saying that if they were president and they were in this position where Democrats and Republicans can't reach a deal to raise the debt ceiling and putting the full faith and credit of our country at risk, they would probably be pretty tempted to use the 14th Amendment. So we'll see whether or not Joe Biden decides to use it if they're unable to reach any sort of an agreement. Again, 11 days away, the clock is ticking. Now, speaking of June 1st, of course, we have payments for SSI going out on June 1st, but not only on June 1st are SSI recipients going to be receiving payments, but they're also going to be receiving payments on the last day of June. So 2 payments for SSI recipients in the month of June. Now, just keep in mind that that second payment in June is simply going to be your payment for July. July 1st falls on a Saturday, and anytime the first of a month falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday, you're going to be receiving that payment a little bit earlier. So according to the Washington Examiner, direct payment worth up to $914 arrives in just 11 days. $914, of course, is the maximum payment that SSI recipients can receive if you're a single individual. If you're a couple, if you file jointly, you can receive a little bit more than that, but $914 would be the max for single individuals. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the payment schedule here for June. So once again, June 1st, SSI recipients are going to be receiving their first payment since the first of the month in May. And then again on June 30th, you're actually going to be receiving your second payment this again because July 1st falls on a Saturday. So you're just going to be getting your July payment a little bit earlier, and then no payments are going to be coming in July for SSI recipients. For SSI recipients, your next payment after that is going to be coming on August 1st. As far as everyone else goes, the payments are going to be going out on June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th, depending on when your birthday falls. So if your birthday falls between the 1st and the 10th of any given month, you're going to be receiving that payment on the 14th of June. If your birthday falls between the 11th and 20th of any given month, your payment is going to be coming on the 21st. And if your birthday falls between the 21st and 31st of any given month, of course, your payment is going to be falling on that 4th Wednesday of June, which is going to be on June 28th. So 2 payments for SSI beneficiaries next month in June. Again, your second payment in June is simply going to be your payment for July. You're just going to be receiving that a little bit early because the July 1st date actually falls on a Saturday. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.